necessarily, that doesn't define you and who you can be as a human and as a contributing member of a community. I think you want that, Mr. Avery. I truly do think that you want that. You want people to like you, to respect you, to look up to you, or to think of you as more of a contributor or a helper than a taker or a thief.
Right. It's embarrassing, honestly.
I bet it is.
Yeah.
And I was really disappointed, not in you and not in the program, but disappointed that when you were in Washburn County Treatment Court, that didn't help. It didn't work.
Mr. Weaver, not only did he acknowledge that he did what he did, but he also spoke about how he understood how the people would feel. And I think that speaks to having some empathy for them. And it's difficult to know if a person is pleading guilty to something. I mean, sure, the state or anybody can say, yes, you're saying you have remorse now because you're dealing with consequences. It's really hard to say when it's going to be taken as sincere and when it's not. But I think one of the statements he made to the PSI writer was very specific about how he understood how a homeowner would feel their loss of peace. That's certainly not something that he got from talking to me. So the only thing I can imagine is that he did actually think about it and had some kind of understanding about how they might feel. So that is indicative of somebody who has thought about it to some extent. And so I do think that indicates sincerity.
Say something?
Well, you'll have your chance.
Right, when
Okay,
she's done,
sorry.
you'll get a whole time and you can tell me, you can take as long as you want to tell me stuff.
Thank you.
He is eligible for earned release. Obviously, the court is aware of the mental health diagnoses, so there's rehabilitation as far as that is concerned as well. We do ask the court to adopt the independent report writer's recommendations. Thank you.
All right, now, Mr. Weaver, you're going to get an opportunity, and this is where you can tell me anything you want me to know about yourself, about the crimes, anything that you think will help me in my sentencing decision.
Okay. There's only one thing that really stood out to me when the DA was talking, like maybe that I only feel sorry because, oh, now I'm in trouble or whatever, but in all actuality, I really don't feel like sorry for myself at all. Like, I accept the situation for what it is. So I mean, I'm not going to say that maybe that's a thing with other people or whatever, but for me personally, I really truly don't feel sorry for myself about being in trouble. I accept it for what it is. And regardless of what happens here today, it doesn't really matter because I've already decided that I'll turn this into a positive thing no matter what happens. So, I mean, seems like everything in life is kind of like a cyclic thing. And I've kind of started to notice, the more observant I've been, the more I've noticed, even while being under the influence or suffering from stuff that's not, favorable or whatever, but like everything's kind of cyclic. And if I remain in a certain cyclic pattern, it just continues, So if I really just decide within myself that I'm going to turn something into a positive, I think I can do that. I believe that I can do that. That's kind of what I've decided already. But either way, like I said, again, I do not feel sorry for myself. I do feel remorse for the people, not so much for like stolen items, even though that's important as well, but literally because if it was me and I was them, I would feel uncomfortable going there based on the fact that what if someone's lurking around a corner or whatever, or if you have kids and you're bringing them there, they could feel uncomfortable. That's what I feel remorseful about the most. So with that said, I don't feel sorry for myself. I accept the situation for what it is. So
Thank you, Mr.
that's all I
Weaver.
have to say.
What did you mean by the statement where you said you don't feel guilty, but you do feel remorse?
I don't feel guilty because that seems like a feeling that would be like, oh, I feel guilty, like it's like a me thing more or less. So I don't feel guilty, I feel remorse. I just look at the situation for what it is. It was a mistake, something that I feel remorseful for because there was victims involved that didn't deserve it, and I accept it for what it is. So I don't feel guilty because that, to me, guilt seems like a feeling that would revolve around the self more or less. And I'm trying to like rid myself of things that are like self-serving, even if it's like self-loathing or something like that, you know?
I think I'm understanding what you're saying. You feel, you know, you're guilty and you're admitting guilt to these crimes.
Yeah, yeah,
And so in that sense, you are guilty.
yeah, but I don't feel the guilt feeling per
Like,
se.
you may feel shame for committing
Oh,
these
yeah,
crimes
it's
and how
embarrassing.
you were there, but it's not one where you're going to let this weigh you down.
Correct, yes,
If that's how I'm hearing what you're saying.
correct.
Okay. All right. Anything else you want to add?
That pretty much sums it up. Thank you.
I have read both of these documents and now I've heard an argument and from both counsel and your statement, Mr. Weaver. I can surely tell you that looking at you here today versus back in 2024, it is a total difference. I can tell, and maybe it's just being incarcerated, but you're free of all substances. You have a rational thinking brain right now, and you are speaking a lot more clearly, respectfully, and intellectually than you have previously in court. I can tell from both of the documents, you had a pretty traumatic childhood. Both with your mother and growing up, and then with the relationships that she had and the men that she brought into your life. And I believe you're the youngest of 5 kids. All right, so yeah, youngest of 5 kids. And so you, as the youngest, got to see all of the stuff because the other kids grew up, got old, moved out, all of those things. So you got the brunt of it, probably. And then when your brother died, I think he was 25, driving to work in a foggy.
He was a little older than 25.
Oh,
35.
maybe you were 25.
He was 35. I was 30 or something like that. 30.
Oh, maybe I read it wrong.
Yeah. No, he died it was recently. It's not very long ago.
That's right. I do remember that when he died recently.
Yep.
I don't know why I thought 25. He was 25.
It's close. He was 35.
Maybe
died.
that's it. But, and I know that had a big impact on you because you came back in custody, and a person can tell, and that's traumatic, especially if he was your closest sibling. You've had a lot of time to think. There was a time when you were incarcerated and somebody bailed you out. It's a lot of money. And then I don't know what happened from then to when you came back into our custody. But at that time, you showed like you didn't accept the responsibility. You weren't going to accept the responsibility. And you didn't care at that time.
To an extent, yeah.
And at this time, I can tell that you really have a clear mind, clear head. And as it was stated in Mr. Schmidt's argument about the diagnoses of having the antisocial personality disorder and all whatever the other things are. I wanted to make that statement to you right when I did, since it was being brought out. A lot of people are diagnosed with personality disorders or those types of things, some type of disorder. They may have to take medication for it. They may have to do a lot of therapy for it, but that doesn't define you and who you can be as a human and as a contributing member of a community. I think you want that, Mr. Avery. I truly do think that you want that. You want people to like you, to respect you, to look up to you, or to think of you as more of a contributor or a helper than a taker or a thief.
Right. It's embarrassing, honestly.
I bet it is.
Yeah.
And I was really disappointed, not in you and not in the program, but disappointed that when you were in Washburn County Treatment Court, that didn't help. It didn't work. What do you think needs to trigger in your mind for you to, when you're released from custody, have a plan to stay sober?
I believe a lot of it falls on me, like if I don't open up myself and accept certain things and decide within myself if I'm going to do something, it's just not going to happen. And in the past, I've been relatively clammed up with people. Like I don't necessarily like sharing things that are personal. I don't necessarily like accepting advice either because I have a hard time trusting people. So for a long time, it's kind of been like wandering around in the darkness, like I never could understand people very well, or like who to trust or who not to trust. And all I knew is that when you do open yourself up to people, you usually get hurt. So with that, I kind of just keep stuff to myself, and I have in the past. And I guess moving forward, maybe it's because I'm getting a little older or something. I've spent a lot of time reading books, and I've been fortunate since I've been in here that someone sends me books to read, and they mostly focus around like discovery, self-discovery. And I, spent quite a bit of time just, contemplating stuff, and like, I think I have a little bit better grasp on being able to tell if someone means me harm or well off things or something. So if I decide within myself that I want to make a change in the right direction, I think it'll be more productive. And with that being said, I'll be more open to taking in information and advice from others that might be more experienced than myself.
That makes a lot of sense, especially because no one can change unless they want to.
Exactly.
All right. So there was a lot of comparison to Ms. Mortensen at the time or during this argument, and your connection and what she did with you, what she didn't do with you, what her sentence was versus what your sentence is. I may remember certain things about the case. I don't remember exactly all that I said and why I went with what I did, but I'm going to tell you, I did go higher than the state recommended. Because to me, and you've hit the nail on the head too in your realizations that burglaries, they are about stuff, and it's about people losing things, especially when they are heirlooms or things that they want to pass down to their children, things that mean a lot, that are priceless. That's when stuff matters more. But really with burglaries, it's about that sense of trust. Can I trust being safe in my home? Can I trust being safe in my vacation property? Where if it's my vacation property where I go to get away from the chaos of the world. And either they worked super hard to be able to get that property, or, it was one that they were able to get through family, generation after generation. Either way, burglaries, they take away more than just property. And when we look at the restitution request in your case, and then combined with Ms. Mortensen's case, it doesn't appear that there is a lot of dollars in property. And so the issue here is the emotional turmoil and trauma that your actions and your conduct now has placed upon 4 separate families, and how they feel. And it's understandable. I believe that you only knew Miss Mortensen for a few months before all of this.
Yeah, it was a pretty short period of time.
Very short period of time before you broke into and destroyed property at the first cabin or the first place. And then it happened after that. It kept going, and even then hit another one twice, hit one twice. What do you think that did to that family?
Honestly, it'd be hard to even really grasp or wrap my head around it, but I'm sure it's horrible. I mean, like I said, if it was me, you know, you go there and like who and when and when's it going to happen again? And like, you know, you don't want to encounter somebody that you don't know that's, like he said, potentially dangerous, you know?
And there was a lot of talk or argument from the state where you can be explosive and unpredictable and violent because you act on impulse. I believe that to be true, especially when you're under the influence of substances. And I would believe that you believe that to be true as well. I also believe that when you are free from substances and you are in a place as you are here today, that you may be a little bit more impulsive, because that's where therapy comes in and you have to work with therapy. But I think that if situations were occurring today, you would be less explosive, less violent, and have less of those extreme negative tendencies. Do you admit all of that's true?
I've had moments where, yeah, I've lost my temper and I'm not proud of it, but it happens, and it has happened.
And so at times you could be explosive and violent, not beating up some person or something like that, but
Yeah.
with violent actions, correct?
Yeah.
I wish we had Mr. Weaver today all the time.
Yeah, me too.
And I'm going to tell you that it will take a lot of work on your part, a lot of work. And it does take therapy, and therapy takes trust, at least with one individual where you can talk to that person and trust that individual. But there is that confidentiality, because I truly think that it will help you with the disorders and your feelings, to be able to talk to somebody and have a therapist and do that. I think that will help a lot, especially if you are going to continue down a path of sobriety. Because again, your childhood and the death of your brother, who I think you called your closest and probably only friend.
Yeah, he was pretty cool.
So my condolences for the loss of your brother.
Yep.
When sentencing, you've been here before. You've been here a lot of times, and I looked at, well, maybe not here, but mostly Washburn County and over there. But you know what a sentencing judge has to do. I have to go through certain factors and go through certain things that I have to first look at the nature and the gravity of the offenses here. And here we're dealing with, well, 5 burglaries, but you pled guilty to 4, 5 just because it was one that affected one family twice. And you're pleading guilty to that obstructing of the officer. The obstruction isn't as high on the seriousness as the burglaries. And we've already went over why. Thank God no one was present at the places, because then it could have been violent. I have to look at you and your history, and that's why this whole discussion of disorders that you may have been diagnosed with and how you can move forward, and a plan that you can take in order to address them. And I'm going to tell you, and to keep the demons at bay. Okay? And I'm not saying you're a demon, I'm not calling you evil, or I'm not saying any of that, but keep that at bay and be the person that you want to be. You want to be liked and respected and looked up to, and you want a community to surround you, not to repel you. I have to look at needing to protect the public, and in doing that, I also have to look at things such as deterrence, deterring you specifically from committing crimes like this again, because I'm going to tell you on your list of crimes that you've been convicted of, these are the most serious. And I have to look at general deterrence, making sure that generally people understand that they cannot commit these crimes, these types of crimes, and that they'll be deterred from doing so because they'll understand that there will be penalties, there will be punishment. This is not something that they can engage in. I have to look at the victim input and where they are, and if they're able to be made whole, property wise, emotionally wise. That's not something that I can do, or you can do, quite honestly. Even if you were to write a letter of apology, sometimes it's hard for people to be able to move on and get over an incident, especially a burglary. I'm trying to think if anything else stood out. It just seems like you have had a difficult childhood and a difficult time adjusting from that childhood to adulthood. And with your diagnoses, you've been self-medicating. You've been trying to make everything stay at bay and trying to make yourself feel normal by using the substances. I think I'm hitting it right on the head. And you're nodding your head up and down.
Yeah, you're not, I mean, you're not far off, definitely. Everybody wants to feel good, you know?
And you were trying to run from the bad.
Too much.
Mr. Weaver, I do think that you have the ability to be that person that you want to be. I truly do. You have to stay in this capacity, and you're going to have to work. And as hard as it is for you to be able to trust people, it's hard for me to trust people. You know, you're going to have to learn to trust some people. And you're going to have to learn, hopefully, to trust a therapist and talk some of these things through. Therapy is good for everybody. For anyone and everybody should have therapy where they know they can say anything that they want. It's confidential unless you're going to hurt somebody, harm yourself, something like that. It's confidential. Or they could lose their license. Because I think that's one of the only ways that you're going to be able to work through this. You can't do it alone, and you shouldn't do it alone. With regards to these cases, well, do we know jail credit? He was in and out and then in and out.
603, I think.
603 days. Are you interested? Have you been to a good therapy or not therapy, treatment?
I mean, I've been to like a treatment, but I guess I didn't take it seriously. Neither was I there very long. So
Do you want to take it seriously?
Upon the contemplating I've done with myself for the last, year, I don't think that it's manageable to continue the way that I have gone. And on top of that, I just don't like the way that it feels. Like you said, I want to feel good about myself. I want to be a contributing member. I don't want people to be repelled and me be repelled from them. I like people, and I know either way. I've already made up the decision that I want to be like a multiplying force rather than a subtracting force. So I mean, I don't think that treatment wouldn't not be helpful. I think it would be helpful.
So
But-
if I say, because sometimes I don't, sometimes I have the right to decide if you're able to engage in early release programming such as substance abuse programming. If I say that I think that you should, I'm gonna let you if you want to and go through that. Is that something that you would do?
Yeah, I would take it seriously. For what it's worth, at least everything that it's worth.
Because I don't think that you would be able, I don't think that you would qualify for the challenge incarceration program. I'd love for you to do that, but I don't think so with some of these things. But I think the substance abuse, I think you really need that. And you really need to focus on the topics and the things and do a little bit more in-depth self-reflection. You're doing a lot, but I think you need to work on it more. And I think you want to work on it more. So with regards to all of the burglary counts, the court, I'm going to sentence you. I'm going to sentence you to 6.5 years. 6.5 years of initial confinement, all concurrent. And I'm going to do 5 years of extended supervision. I'm trying to calculate it where there'd be the punishment aspect of sitting time. But if you truly want to do the substance abuse programming, then you'll get that benefit of getting the earned early, the earned release or early release. And then you'll take it seriously. Or if you decide you don't want to do that route, then you have more punishment. It's going to be in your hands. Be able to determine that. On extended, and for the obstruction, 9 months concurrent as well. 9 months concurrent with the other charges. This county will do better. Washburn County, where I believe you were from, and where a lot of your crimes took place, will benefit more if you put the priority on yourself and if you do the substance abuse programming. Conditions: absolute sobriety, no use or possession of any illegal drugs, substances, or paraphernalia. Testing, regular testing. No contact with anyone on felony extended supervision or felony probation without your agent's permission or without authority to do so. I am going to order a thinking for the change or breaking barriers type of program. I think that'll be very beneficial to you and help with your mindset. I'm going to order a mental health evaluation to see if there's therapy. I'm not ordering that you have to do it every week. I'm not saying that you have to. I just want you to see if there is an ability to get help and open that door for you. I said absolute sobriety, no illegal drugs, substances, or paraphernalia. No bars, taverns, liquor stores, or casinos. No contact with any of the victims or the properties associated or their residents, because I'm sure they live in Minnesota. You have 20 days to appeal. Should you fail to appeal within 20 days, you do lose that right. I do need your DNA, and the jail will make sure that they get that. I do not believe that that this has the ability to be expunged, but you can request that if you wish, but I don't think that with this DNA, it can be expunged. You did have $10,000 posted You absconded. That was forfeited long ago. However, the court did set aside the amount to pay the restitution back. So there is $2,878.62 to pay the restitution. So at least you have that taken care of. I'm going to tell you that's going to go a long way when you're in custody, because if you are going to get an inmate worker position, you're only paid like 25 cents an hour, and they take restitution. I do believe that I can say that I'm not looking for payment on the court costs and fees until you are released. Restitution, I cannot do that. So the restitution is now, or should be paid after today. All right. With regards to the court costs and fees, $518 for the first count of burglary. I'm going to waive court costs for everything else because it's going to be a lot, because the law says that I have to charge at least a DNA surcharge for every conviction. And here you have the 5 convictions. So $518 for the first burglary, $250 the DNA surcharge for the other 3, and then $200 DNA surcharge for the obstruction, because that's a misdemeanor. But the rest of the court costs will be waived. I'm also going to say as a condition, gainful employment or higher education, because I believe I've read in at least one of the PSIs and in talking to you as your system has cleared and your brain has been reignited, you're an intelligent man. I believe it was referred to as highly intelligent man. So why waste that? Okay, why waste that? If you're given an opportunity in prison to get a profession or certification or something, use that. If you're able to do the welding, use that. We need more welders. If you're able to do plumbing, figure that out and do that. We need more plumbers. Okay? And you can make a lot of money doing those things. And then as you're on your path to sobriety and you're released, and if you have those certifications, then you can have your own business instead of having somebody see, oh, look at how much of a felon he is. Okay? You know? Right. So that's a way to focus, and hopefully you can keep that on your vision board. All right? If you don't pay your fines and fees, not only will a civil judgment be entered against you, but I will issue a warrant when you're released if you haven't paid, and you could sit up to 6 months more of jail. I am going to order right now that as it relates to court costs and fees, payment can wait until you are released on extended supervision. If the Department of Corrections requires me to have an amount, I will just say $5 a month because I'd rather have you have the ability to earn your low wage in prison and be able to use that in good ways. Not that paying back court costs and fees is not good. I'm a stickler. I make sure everybody pays them off. Believe me, ask around. So I think that covers everything. Mr. Schmidt, what am I missing?
Nothing from me.
Ms. Perrin?
Nothing.
Please move forward and do good. Be good. And don't just try to do something, actually do it. And use your mind. And be something better. Be something that you're meant to be, not what this defines you as. Okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. There's nothing further, then we are adjourned. Oh, 6.
What starts as a burglary sentencing quickly turns into one of the most emotional courtroom conversations imaginable. A man named Avery Weaver stands before the judge after pleading guilty to multiple burglaries. And at first, the prosecutor paints a brutal picture. Years of criminal behavior, drug addiction, destroyed properties, frightened families, and repeated chances that never worked. The state argues that prison is the only option left. But then something unexpected happens. Instead of denying responsibility, Weaver speaks honestly about his addiction, his trauma, and the guilt he carries. He explains that he doesn't feel sorry for himself. He feels remorse for the fear he caused innocent families. He talks about how burglary steals more than property. It destroys people's sense of safety. The judge listens carefully and realizes she's not talking to the same person who first appeared in court months earlier. She tells him directly that she can see a difference in him now, that he's thinking clearly, speaking respectfully, and finally taking accountability. Then the conversation becomes deeply personal. They discuss his traumatic childhood, losing his brother, substance abuse, anger, therapy, and the struggle to trust anyone. At one point, the judge says something powerful. That diagnosis does not define who you can become. And suddenly, this stops feeling like just another sentencing hearing. It becomes a conversation about whether someone who has spent years destroying his own life can still change before it's too late. In the end, the judge gives him prison time, but also gives him something else, a path toward treatment, therapy, and recovery, if he chooses to take it seriously. So here's the real question. When someone finally shows genuine remorse after years of crime and addiction, should the court focus more on punishment or on helping that person rebuild their life? Like and subscribe for more real courtroom moments.